Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Commiserate. I'm your host, Sam.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I'm Dave.
We're keeping that. Welcome back. Yes. Okay, that's the intro we went with this time. And we've never had a consistent. Every podcast I've watched, they've got something consistent. Well, I'm sure there's prominent ones that
For episode 43, do we need consistency?
might be time to start. I don't know. We'll see. Well, this is a noteworthy episode because after this episode, Dave is getting married, and he'll probably be going on a bit of a hiatus. I'm gonna be away from Let's Commiserate, and yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, he'll probably be back in like 2 hours.
Okay, to be fair, with our release schedule, I probably could go on my honeymoon and come back, and they would never know.
Probably.
It was
Probably. And normally, I think like when I got married, we just went on a hiatus altogether. But there's new Star Wars content coming out. This thing that we need working up with.
We've been working really hard to try to get ready in preparation for Andor season. And to be fair, Andor season 1 is the first, I think, series that we've done. We're going to at least hopefully do the complete bit.
We actually did. We completed Ahsoka in its entirety.
We did.
We completed the Acolyte in its entirety.
Did.
I don't think we completed Skeleton Crew.
And Skeleton Crew, we skipped. We really should go back and do Bad Batch. We kind of summed up the last episode. I don't know if you really want to count that because Bad Batch is kind of a.
No, we've done quite a few movie reviews as well. I think all things considered, we've done okay.
If you were to consider all the things, if you knew had all the things and then considered them, it would be okay.
So, unfortunately, we're in a spot where we have to carry on without you just for a few episodes. We'll so on without me. We'll see how long it is before Jess is like, okay, you can start recording again.
It might be a while.
Might be a while. But we have Riverside. That's been our.
It is actually so. Shout out to Riverside, one of the best remote audio recording apps,
recording platforms. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and Dave will still be living close by too. So I don't know. You know, we're preparing for change, but I don't know how much is actually change. I mean, I didn't think we would still keep working here after I got married, but here we are. We've managed to.
You still need studies. After you've been told,
you still need hobbies and you still need friends. I don't. Well, we don't have the second one right now, anyway.
I am neither a hobby nor a friend.
Let's not get confused here. But I'm very excited. I've got some guests lined up to fill in for Dave in his absence, and I think it will, kind of give a little jolt,
a breath of fresh air to the fresh air. It's been 43 episodes of
43 episodes of this.
You need a little bit of change, a little bit. You need to mix it up.
And I forget who I was talking to about it. I am excited to get some different perspectives because I was like, I think one problem with our show is we don't disagree enough.
I have to admit, there are a lot of times where it's very rare that we diametrically have different opinions on a subject. Most of the time, we're like, I see where you're coming from, But,
that is a good point. Like, we're too simple. And the times when we do disagree, it gets ugly, and I'm in the back of my head thinking, oh, yes, we need to disagree.
But it is entertaining for the man.
Yeah, I think, it might have been Judah. He was like, no, it's really too bad you and Rodish have the same mind, and that,
that is sorry. But that'll change with all of your guest stars.
Yeah, and so... Hey, and we might have wildly different opinions on what we're about to discuss. So, yeah, we've made it, folks. We've made it to the last 2 episodes of Andor season 1. And there is a lot to unpack.
Are we not talking about our commiserations? Is that? Oh, sorry. The misery of.
What's your commiseration?
Oh, my commiseration is other people's opinions of what a wedding should be.
Oh, okay.
We are going there. We're going there. Tell me. Okay. What gets me, and this is, it's taken me a couple of weeks because, people will say things or do things like snidely, or they'll comment. They're like, "Oh, you're doing that? Okay." It's like, "Oh, I didn't expect this," or "Where's this happening?" And you're like, "We're not doing that," or "We are doing this," and they're like, "Oh," and you're like, "Oh," and you're like, "We're not doing that," or "We are doing this," and they're like, "Oh," and you're 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 like, " where's this judgment coming from? And what I've come to realize is that people, they don't care about what you want for a wedding. They project what they expect that a wedding and a reception and a ceremony and a bride and a groom and a honeymoon should be. And then they project that onto you. So then either they ask, oh, are you doing a photo booth? Oh, are you doing an after dinner? Are you doing a dance party? And then when you say no or yes or may, they're like, oh, your decisions about what a marriage should be are not aligning with my unfulfilled desires for what a wedding should be. And you're just like, I don't mean, and I do not mean this selfishly in any way, but I'm like, this is my day. My day. So, and I don't mean that like arrogantly. No, it's sort of like, this is the one time that I'm like, you should be asking, oh, what are you doing? Okay, cool. That sounds great. I'm glad you are doing that for your wedding. Instead of this weird snide, and all of these, and I love people, but they keep doing these weird offerings. They're like, oh, hey, by the way, if you want, I have this thing that you could borrow.
Oh, hey, if you want your wedding to be good,
Here, this food platter, this item, this carafe, this photo booth, this these party tricks, this dancing clown, and you're like, I don't want.
we keep him in the backyard.
You're like, I don't want any. Why are you offering? And then they get upset if you don't say yes. And that's what gets me, is not, I don't mind people's generosity with like, hey, this is a thing that, you know, might save you some money or might save you some time. And you're like, that is very kind to see.
The pressure.
But then people get mad if you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is this coming from?
Well, two things. One, you know you're guilty of the same thing, but the other way around. Because there have been times where you have said, yeah, we're not doing that for our wedding because I don't get why people have done that. Like, no, we don't want that. And in my head, I'm like, I did that for my wedding. Are you saying? So it does go both ways.
But did I? Did I not support you?
You did.
Everything you decided for, you did.
You did.
Did I criticize anything that you were doing?
You did not. You did not. And our wedding turned out pretty awesome.
It was amazing. It was fantastic.
Yes. But to your point, and that was so, you know,
Thank you. Just feel validated. Amazing.
okay, great. Okay, so, you know, you admit that you are in the wrong.
I admit that I am in the right. I do.
No, but to your point as well, like when we were planning ours, and I hate to keep coming back to that, but
It makes sense. It is your experience with the subject.
well, yeah, but there were times where I had to remind myself, like, hey, it is okay for me to vocalize my opinion in this situation, because actually this is kind of the one time where I do get to have some say in how the day goes down. And sometimes people forget that.
I've been very, I feel like we've been very flexible with like requests and stuff. Like, I'm like, no, this is Jesse's wedding, whatever Jesse wants, and thank God she's a very reasonable girl. Like, she's very modest, very not out to impress anyone or not to, waste money needlessly, which I'm really happy about. And like from a financial standpoint and just from like a,
And the bride especially sets the tone. Yeah. So if she is easygoing that way, so that will definitely carry over it'll carry over into the rest of the day. But it's when other people come in to, with what their expectations of what they think your wedding should be like.
And I don't mind there are things that I wish, like, I wanted for the wedding and Jesse didn't. There are things that Jesse wanted for the wedding that I didn't.
But it's like, I wanted to wear a white dress, and apparently that was out of the question.
I was going to wear a kilt, but
yeah,
that was vetoed. But we talked about it. We got to an amicable agreement and stuff. And I was like, okay, because this works. But then it's all the other people, the mother-in-law and the other mother-in-law, and then the sister, and then the brother, and then the uncle, and then the cousin, and then everyone else that is like, hey, can you do this one thing? I know I'm not asking. I'm just asking for this one thing. And you're like, okay, how many one thing?
But you're still asking for something.
How many one things can I do for everybody before it's not my wedding anymore?
Well, it was and
the real fundamental equation of this whole thing is you cannot make everyone happy.
You will never make everyone happy. But even down to like who you have involved in it. Like when we were choosing who was going to be like, wedding party, this and this, you're trying to choose people who are close to you and who are probably going to stay in your lives, but also people who won't be challenging during the process. And and so some people, like, I've been in quite a few weddings, and there's never been one request from a bride or a groom where I've been like, oh, can we do this instead? Like, oh, can I wear a blue tie instead of this yellow one that you want me to wear? Why? Like, I don't like, it was like these simplest things that like Samantha would ask, someone like, oh, can you get this color? And they went, oh, but I don't want to wear that. It's not about you.
I'm sorry. I do not have time for at that point. At that point, it's almost like, look, you don't have to be there.
Yep.
Obviously I'm trying very hard not to burn any bridges because I do love these people. I want them in my life forever. But it's getting to the point where you're just like, look, you don't have to be here if you don't want to. If you want, I will send you the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that backfired. Bye. It's just like, now it's let me commiserate. But I was talking to Mike about it this afternoon. It is such a weird game of, at what point does it stop being about, let me show my love for you. If you love me, you'll do this one thing for me. And it's like, okay, I want to include you in my life. I'll include you in my special day, and I'll make an exception, or I'll go out of my way to try to show you, make a physical expression of how much I appreciate having you in my life. At what point does that stop and turn around and being like, it would be the more reasonable thing for you to show how much you love me and not asking for that one weird exception or permission or something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where is this weird balance of, and I love you and I want you, but you're being unreasonable, or I'm being unreasonable. And it's like, okay, I don't know where that line is.
Well, when it comes to
It's a little bit different. So, it's
and when it comes to the parental side of things, I can't understand because I'm not a parent. Not yet. I cannot understand it. But when it comes to this mentality, when I'm not speaking about my own wedding, but like when some parents are like, oh, like, well, I do have a list of wishes, this and this and this, like when it somehow becomes their day. But some people are very much of the mentality of like, oh no, they should have the big say in what goes down and this and this. I've never understood it.
I've never understood it.
Like, you try to accommodate them to a degree.
There is a level of accommodation, because if it means that much to them, you're going to be, you're going to have your mother-in-law for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
However long that may be.
I am very blessed to have a wonderful mother-in-law. I've actually become her favorite now. So, but
good to see that.
yeah. But
But all this stuff, I think a lot of this can just be resolved with open, neutral, non-emotional conversation. It's like if you
and eloping
facts, bro. If you have an issue with someone, just talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Don't go into it. I mean, obviously, you can't go into it with strong opinions, which is kind of, I think, the bigger lesson here. But go into it with non-emotion. That's the biggest thing. The second you start getting into the whole, well, you don't love me or I love you, or like the second you get your pride or ego involved, it gets very sticky.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of this could be resolved very eloquently and very, very diplomatically if we just talk about things.
On a podcast behind their back where they can't hear you or depend them. Just talk to me. Hey, what I love too is this podcast episode is going to be released after your wedding, so this won't cause any drama before.
Yeah.
But it might create some residual now. So
I'll look forward to seeing this on my family chat and being like, hey, did you see?
I'm gonna send this episode to each individual member of your family. Like, I'm gonna, hey, Caitlin, look at this. Hey, Michael, look at this timestamp here. Hey, Beth, look at the. I'm gonna get so mad.
I'm gonna get random texts from my aunts and uncles.
That will be my gift.
And they'll be like, hey, we just saw your episode.
That will be my gift to you. Some good old fashioned family.
All right. So now,
hey, you wanted to talk about it. I was gonna go into the episode.
I'm done Commiserate. Let's move on to the final 2 episode arc of
Andor. Yeah.
Season 1. We're picking up with episode 11, entitled Daughter of Ferrets, and episode 12 entitled
Rick's Road. And these episodes go back to being written by Tony Gilroy and directed by Benjamin Caron. There were, again, I was kind of taking it by plot points more so. Vel, you see her frustration rising. Well, I guess before we get into the deeper dive, what were your overall thoughts?
Well, I just kind of want to pick up. So in the last episode arc, we had Mon Mothma is trying to figure out financial situations. She's getting pushed into a stressful situation, into a situation with kind of a loan shark, I guess.
He's a
We talk about, but
he's a thug.
they say they're a financial thug, Luthen is really playing all of the angles between Saw Gerrera. He's gonna let he knowingly is gonna let
30 men Manto
Krieger go into an Imperial trap.
They know they're being trapped.
But overall, cut off Ferrix. So now Bix is in prison. Cassian and Melshi have just escaped from prison, so they're escaping on Narkina. I knew so much happened in the last arc, and this is kind of where the main characters are at.
Yeah.
Vel is on Coruscant visiting with Mon. And we pick up.
Well, I just want to say my overall thoughts. Overall thoughts. I thought it was very.
So the arc.
The arc. I mean, finale. I thought it was a very solid conclusion.
Well, okay.
Overall, but
This season, the whole show has been fantastic.
Yes.
And the season finale does not disappoint.
yeah, it never got to a point where I was like, I don't think I Because I will say overall, with these live action series, Star Wars does not do good finales. This was the first Star Wars TV finale that I was like, yes, I feel satisfied and still excited.
Was that just on the Acolyte before when we were reviewing that? It's just Andor set such a high bar.
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy did such an amazing job with the storyline and the character development and the dialogue and the screenplay and the writing and the filming, and everything was just so well done at such a high tier that it was very difficult for any other live action series to follow that,
And ironically, the finale of Acolyte was the only good episode of that show, in my opinion. But
in an ironic turn.
Yeah. But so on one hand, with Vel, I appreciated there's a scene where Vel calls Clea out for what have you done lately? Because Clea annoys me. I'm sorry, she's an annoyed.
I'm really interested in seeing what their dynamic was, because it was like Vel and Clea are both like vying for Luthen's attention, but Vel is like in the field. They're like Luthen's work wives, but like Clea is in the office and Vel is in the field, and there's this rivalry energy between them, and I don't know why. I'm hoping they kind of pick it up and see.
Clea is very territorial as well, and I'm like, girl, you got this like rebellion-sized chip on your shoulder. Maybe like let them in on something.
When she has this kind of like Karen energy from The Office. It's like the office secretary Karen for the rebellion.
Like, he's in a really important meeting right now. Oh, and like I see him in the window.
Where Vel is like, I need to talk to him. I have something important. And she's like, yeah, you and 2 other dozen people. And it's like, well, okay, technically from Clea's standpoint, she's coordinating a intergalactic.
She's like, girl, you should see his Google calendar. There's Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. Okay.
And like, okay, you can kind of understand both of their frustration, but it was interesting having this kind of this catfight.
Yeah. Going back to what we mentioned earlier, Luthen, there's this conflict. He knows that Krieger's men are going to be walking into a trap. He's got word of that. And it's interesting, Luthen, dang, he is willing to let 30 men plus Krieger die. He's telling this to Saw, and Saw is like,
they didn't want to.
He didn't want to, but like he lets it out. But this was the first time I was like, I didn't think I would ever be on Saw Gerrera's side of an argument. But yeah, I would be disgusted by it too. But then Saw comes around.
So in the story, Luthen, basically they get a transmission. It's like, okay, you got to go back. So Luthen flies out to go see Saw. Saw's like, I'm in. These are my conditions. I want it. Because earlier in the last arc, Saw was like, I'm out. I hate Krieger. I hate them. They're all stupid and stuff. And Luthen's like, no, we need to start working together and stuff. So in this episode, there's a turn of events. Saw's like, no, I want in. Here's my conditions. This is the equipment I want. We're going to be flying like on these parameters. And Luthen, at this point, he knows the Empire's setting a trap in Krieger's toast. So Luthen kind of has to backpedal and be like, no, I don't want you there. To which Saw is like, why the change of heart? Like, you so wanted this and now you really don't. And at that point, you can see, I love, what's the guy's name?
Stellan Skarsgård.
Amazing job. But you can see the process going on in his face, and who's like, and then he decides to play the card. He's like, it's a trap.
Yeah.
Krieger's about to get cooked. And Saul's like, what do you mean? And he's like, it's a setup. The ISB, the Empire know they're gonna toast all of Krieger and his 30 men, the 30 men and Krieger.
Plus Krieger.
At which point Saw stops thinking about Krieger and he starts thinking logically, as Saw should. He's like, you have people everywhere.
Who's here now? Yeah.
You have people in the ISB. You know that the Empire laid a trap. You must have people with Krieger. You must have spies in the Empire. You must have people here in my Saw Guerrero, faction. Mm-hmm. So he's like, all right, who is it and stuff. And then there's this great little play about Luthen like lies that it's tubes, and then but eventually they talk turkey. They get down to the fact that Luthen's like, look, I didn't want to get to this point, but it's better for us in the long run if the Empire doesn't know that we have an inside man.
Yeah.
And Saw, you can see like the way Luthen plays it. Saw's like, I see your point.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
We're gonna let Krieger die.
Yeah. It's wow. Like, this is like,
I love this bit. Saw's like, for the greater good, and Luthen's like, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang.
It's one of those moments like where like, okay, are the rebellion really the good guys, at this point? And then there's this whole but it's tense, and I apologize, but we got to move through this. I mean, episode 11, I have to say there's a lot happening, but okay, I have thoughts on it later. But
so much happens in so little.
Yeah. So Luthen almost gets captured, and for me, it was nice to see that he isn't as all powerful as the show had been good enough to be.
This mod has a super starship,
but like he was still vulnerable to like even being spotted. And the escape sequence is insane. Like this dogfight, it's really cool, I will say. And like even just like at the end when you see the TIE fighters like just in rubble, and I forget the commander on the other ship, it's just like it's just dead silence, and he's like, what just happened? The escape is awesome.
This sequence where Luthen is stuck in a tractor beam, and then he just sends a bunch of like flechettes, and then I forget what he does with the other TIE fighter, and then he auto turrets two of them.
Yeah, they got
there's some form of like laser beam technology,
which apparently was an homage to James Bond, his Aston Martin. Martin.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
like he cooks two of the TIE fighters. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
so tense, so well done.
That's like the big action sequence of that episode. On the other hand, we got Mon Mothma. She's placed into this conflict where that lone shark or gang leader, I forget his name, but he's willing to do it if, in so many words, she'll marry his daughter off to his son, because the Chandrillings marry people off when they're like preteens, 14.
It's a Chandrillan customary,
because that's what Mon Mothma herself.
So there's a bunch of stuff in this episode about like the Chandrillan chants, the elders, the some of like the Chandrillan like ceremonies and whole traditions. I was trying to do some research on them, and this is like the first time we're hearing about a lot of.
Yeah, we don't get most. So
this is one of the biggest glimpses that we get into the Chandrillan like culture.
Yeah.
All we know is it's like, okay, it's a core world. They're heavily political. They have refined money, but that's about it.
Yeah. They have a cool
I love
wormy drink.
They have a worm drink.
Yeah.
Like you can tell there's a lot of history and culture with this. Mm-hmm. But one of the traditions is they marry off their kids, betrothment at 14.
Child marriage, essentially.
And this is kind of one of those funny things that we see. Well, not funny. This is one of those tough decisions that we see Mon have to make because she's stuck in this situation where she is in a financial position where the Empire may figure out that she's a rebel.
Right.
And her only solution to get out of it is to kind of pawn off her daughter. And so she's stuck in this moral dilemma between how do I tell my daughter that I'm using her as a tool to get out of this rebellion. So it's like, it's kind of like, it really highlights the cost. Like, what does this rebellion cost Mon Mothma?
And at the same time, her daughter, Ladra, I think her name is, she is rebellious, but her form of being rebellious is by actually clinging to the old Chandrilan traditions, which was unexpected. I was actually...
What a better way to fight the man than to be
the man. So that's the conflict she's placed into. Back with Cassian, he gets word that Marv has passed away. And in the meantime, he's been with Ruskat Melshi, one of his prison inmates. And I didn't realize this, but Melshi actually returns as a rebel sergeant in Rogue One, played by the same actor. Like, he was brought back for...
And who didn't realize?
Because, like, when they part ways, you're like, oh, this is kind of sad. Because Melshi is like, people need to know what happened here. People need to know what's going on.
I was kind of wondering.
And it's like,
Melshi stuck around for a couple of episodes. And all right, who is this guy?
Yeah. And Samantha, we were watching this. She was like, are they going to see each other again? Or something like that. And I was like, I don't know. And then I was reading, I was like, oh, he was in Rogue One. Yeah, he does come back. Mind you, I've only seen Rogue One twice. So we're definitely gonna review it after season 2 of Andor, because I mean, how could you not watch Rogue One after Andor season 2? But I'm purposefully not watching it until then. But yeah, Melshi, he does come back as a rebel sergeant, so I'm just happy to know that he makes it out alive. So in the final episode, Mon comes up with a crafty way of explaining all this money moving that's been happening, because she knows her driver is a spy. So, oh, I'm daring to form it. And she's like, hey, could you give us some privacy, please? Need to talk about our schedule. She says schedule. And not missing. But then she kind of puts on a show with her husband. She says, I know you've been gambling, and I know that's why money's been moved around. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's genuinely caught off guard. She's like, don't lie to me. It's the same.
Again, this way, but it appears from their dialogue that Perrin may have had a gambling problem in past, recent history. She starts accusing him that he's gambling again, which he completely denies.
Yep.
And the entire time, the drivers, all he's hearing is,
it's like,
Perrin's been gambling again.
Yeah. And apparently
he's in later in the episode when he's talking with
the ISB, Blevin,
and he's like, yeah, this is what I heard. Perrin's been gambling. And Blevin's like, that would explain their finances.
Makes sense. I love that it worked. I feel like typically they wouldn't be like, oh no, she's putting on a show. But
then, what blows my mind is, like, Mon has no idea. Like, we as the audience, we see that and we're like, oh, it worked. Mon still has no idea.
She's throwing a Hail Mary.
She just kind of cast that Hail Mary out there. It was like, maybe this will work, maybe this won't.
They're like, makes sense. And I love, secondly, Genevieve O'Reilly, who plays Mon Mothma. She's an amazing actress, and I'm so happy that she is getting her time to shine after the whole Revenge of the Sith thing. And apparently, she comes back in Ahsoka. I don't remember Mon Mothma in Ahsoka.
No, there's like 2 scenes.
Yeah,
there's not a lot.
I have zero memory of this, but anyway, apparently, Genevieve O'Reilly was nominated for a Saturn Award for this show. And I know I said, what is this? I know I said, who cares about the Saturn Awards? But obviously I was JK, and you guys, they're very prominent. But I'm glad you got some type of...
What is a Saturn Award?
It's an award for, sitting down and acting.
It's an American award presented annually by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films.
Yeah. Cool. That's goody.
Okay.
So now So the ISB, Daedra is really hoping that the news of Marv's death will lure Cassian back to Ferrix, and everybody's like really banking on that to happen. And
to which he pulls through.
He does,
You know,
and I think he knows. Like, yeah, they're probably expecting.
there's a couple of sequences where they kind of flesh out how the ISB figures out that Cassian is there. It's needless backstory.
Yeah,
All that you need to know is Bix is still stuck in an Imperial prison cell where she's been, tortured and interrogated for days, weeks. Brazo is there. Marva's dead. Cassian goes on the planet. Before Luthen, Val, so Cinta is on the planet watching Marva's apartment. Val meets up with her. Luthen arrives because he knows Cassian is going to be there as well.
Yeah.
The ISB is Daedra actually goes after Ferrix to try to set up this sting operation to try to trap Cassian because the Cassian is the key to everything.
literally, I realize they get every main character in one place, which you're like, wow, I know all of these characters. So this is exciting.
Cyril? Yeah, Cyril is there. Cyril gets a transmission from Sergeant Mosk, who's like, oh yeah, his mom just died. We need, so Cyril steals some money from his aunt. He travels out to Ferrix. So to your point, we have all of the characters
except Mon Mothma. Sorry, Mon.
in one place. And then it just, the whole episode builds.
You're so excited because you're like, wow, I know all of these characters so well, and now they're all in one place together. What's going to happen? And before Cassian goes home, he even listens to Nemec's manifesto. Oh,
That was such. Also, Nemec raises some amazing points.
he does. But I will say, if I didn't have my subtitles on, I wouldn't have known that it was Nemec. That was the
Honestly, I heard his voice, I felt down the scene. He thought it was a Force ghost. I saw, because a couple of the scenes it was like Luthen in the woods, and then Bix in the prison cell, and then you just hear Nemec talking about tyranny requires constant effort, and someday there will be one too many. And you're like, Nemec is one with the Force, and then it cuts to Cassian listening to his eyes.
Listen to in your life, man.
Oh, it was Nemec the whole time.
I will say one critique. A critique? Yes.
Tony is going to be there. Yep. Tones, I'm sorry, but Tones. I remember the first time watching this, I remember feeling these episodes were way more fast-paced, but 11 actually kind of drags on a bit. And an episode
that is a little bit slow.
And in episode 12,
Episode 12 makes up for it.
well, in episode 12 even, hardly anything happens until the actual funeral scene. It's very slow and quiet. And I know they're trying to build tension now. Samantha and I, we watched the prison arc and these episodes all in one batch. Okay, so it was a lot to take in. The prison arc, she was completely hooked. This arc, she fell back asleep. And like I said, she's usually my gauge.
I mean, that's a pretty visceral gauge.
Yeah.
So he fell asleep.
But things do happen once the funeral gets going. And on one hand, Luthen is there. And I truly don't understand why he wants Cassian dead. That was really confusing to me. And I know there's he knows too much and he's seen too much reasoning. Okay, but so hasn't Vel also seen too much? Hasn't Cinta seen too much? And hasn't Mon seen too much? Why are you focusing in on Cassian? Why not just try recruiting him for good? I'm not understanding the motivation, Bell.
And I think this is one of those. It is a bit contrived because throughout the series we saw Luthen try to buy him, try to convince him, try to buy him out, and then he ran away. He took his cut and run, and Luthen's like, okay, well, to protect the rebellion, he knows our names, he knows too much, we do need to kill him. It seems a bit focused though, because the whole thing with Clea is there's dozens of operatives, there's hundreds of agents working throughout the galaxy. I'm like, and now you're kind of fixating on this one person. Okay, it's a bit much. It's a little much.
It's a lot, Robin.
But they set up some ISB sets up this whole breakdown for Rick's Road. They're the Daughters of Ferrix are only going to be allowed 30 people. We have snipers in place.
Which again, I think was a COVID restriction, but I haven't read that anywhere. But I heard peaceful.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're we have snipers in place. Daedra's no. Vel all of a sudden found some local clothing. Just running.
Vel has got quite a variety of a wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
But they have in her funeral procession, they've got I think it's organized by the Daughters of Ferrix. marching procession. And apparently they were really playing their instruments. They made a really big deal out of the fact that they made a really big deal out of people playing the instruments like live on set. But, you know, they do that on Broadway every...
So we see his whole Cassian. There's a lot of like tunnel sequence, ladder sequence and stuff. The point is Cassian meets up with Brasso. Brasso kind of tells him Marva's final words, like, tell him that none of this was his fault. I love him. Despite me, proud he does. I'm proud of you. Keep fighting. Keep trying. You know, that whole thing. Eventually, Cassian is like, "Where's Bix? They have her. I need to go get her." Brasso is like, "What are you doing?" So Cassian goes off to save Bix. Marfiero and Mosk arrive. They trade hats. There was like some sequence where there was like a big deal about them trading hats. I'm like, maybe they're just best friends. They're like walking close.
He's got his back. It leads to, I mean, it's a very slow moving procession, but then they play Marv's final words, and
yeah, so they get to Rick's Rosie. B rolls up and plays a hologram,
and it is symbolic because Rick's Road is where Clem Cassian's atop.
But this is mainly just a Ferrex tradition that if someone dies, especially the daughters of Ferrex, they have like, I guess, a recording of the person prior to their death. So then they play it at their funeral because, like, in Marva's speech, he's like, I've been to Rick.
Their ashes are also made into brick.
I've been here more than anyone else here. I've heard these speeches. I've heard truths given by the deceased many times. And she's like, now I realize, like, what am I supposed to say? And so she gives this, like, rousing speech. She's like, all I know is that we've been sleeping. We have each other. Mm-hmm. We have Ferrex.
This story is so good at speeches.
The Empire left. We had each other. But now they're here, and they're not leaving. We still have each other. But you know what? And I love her. She's like, if I had another chance to do it over again, I would wake up in the morning and fight. And you're just like...
That's the family-friendly version of it, but yes.
I appreciate it.
But her speech, I said, like, her speech feels like the true birth of the rebellion. Like... Everybody, they just can't help but be moved to action. Even the commander of the ISB, he's like, oh, okay, no, turn that on. And what I love that comes through is, like, you see just how cowardly the Empire is, because, like, that guy is like, oh, no. He goes to hide. I was like, oh, open fire. And,
oh, yeah.
It's
what I mean, there's so much here that I love because Brasso is out front, just literally smashing heads with Marva's brick. Completely fulfilling what he wanted.
Yep.
You have Luthen in the back listening to the entire speech, seeing all of this happening, fully well knowing what this represents galaxy-wide.
Yeah, and apparently this entire revolt scene took 11 days to shoot. And I believe it. It was also like,
we passed over. So Pax's son, I don't have his name, but
yeah.
Pax's son, Pax's son, the junkyard who owns the property that Bix was using for the communication, that is one of Luthen's communicate agents. Pax, they like imprisoned him and tortured him and stuff. I don't know if he's alive, but I know how he is. So he goes on to make I don't know if we're casual if we say things.
A weapon.
He makes a device,
an explosive,
that he prepares, and during the fight, people, because you have basically they have riot soldiers, they have riot generals and stuff. They're beating each other up and stuff. But then this kid throws his the device over into the Imperial stuff, and it just, it blows out windows, it flips a car, it obviously it cooks a couple of stormtroopers.
Yeah, and
at that point, that's when the ISB or the Imperial agents are like, all right, this game has changed. Shoot them.
And no matter what, that bell tower is going to keep on ringing. So much to the point where the commander's like, go get in this stuff.
Oh, I love that bit where he's like, it was just such a fanciful, like, go stop that bell.
Yeah.
And then the stormtrooper runs up there, to which the bell tower dude literally kicks the trooper out of the tower.
If you've ever seen Vertigo,
epic.
That's I was having flashbacks to that. And there's a part where Cyril saves Dedra from the crowd, And, in his mind, he's viewing it as a heroic thing, but it's just more creepy than it is. So creepy. You can even tell that she's not sure how to feel. She's like, oh, so, okay, you're still stalking me. That's cool, but I guess thanks. And he's like,
She also is at such a high of adrenaline. It's just adrenaline of like she's literally getting mobbed by like a dozen people and stuff. She was about to die, and then Cyril saves her. So it's this kind of weird like nightingale. It's like effect where it's like she's being saved by her stalker. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
and that's the last we see of them in this show, in this season. That's where they leave it with him. But,
So at this point, they kind of go their separate ways. People obviously, the Empire is firing, so people run away. Mosk is seen just kind of sitting off in the corner drinking. Cyril is with Daedra. Cassian has escaped with Bix. Luthen runs away on his speeder bike. Luthen hops on his ship. He calls out some computer. He's like, all right, let's go full stealth. Let's escape. And the computer's quiet. So he walks around the corner, and there's Cassian.
yeah. And also, apparently, those like guard dogs, for lack of a better word, those hounds are apparently real canines in suits.
That's epic.
I was like, I hope they could breathe in that. They were real dogs.
That's amazing.
Because
We've seen those in previous.
in like Mandalorian, there's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Brazo,
Porgs. I forget what they're called.
not the Porgs. The Porgs are Last Jedi. Oh, also apparently,
Oh, you're right.
when Mon Mothma is telling her husband, like, I know you've been gambling, like, you should just go to X casino.
Yeah.
The casino that she was referring to is the casino from The Last Jedi.
You mean Canto Bike?
Yes.
Which also makes an appearance in Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah. Oh, it's my only because of Last Jedi. Okay, like that's.
Canto Bike is a gambling world.
But it made its first appearance in Last Jedi. Okay,
It's terrible.
it didn't like originated in Clone Wars or something.
Figured they would have done like North Shadar, but I guess they can kind of make this.
There's so many other gambling spots when we galaxy.
There's so many other places.
But anyway,
Brazodone and gambling in Star Wars universe.
Brazo is just as a real one as ever. She also is gonna take care of Bix because Cassian's like, no, I'm not going with you for some reason. Why wouldn't you just go with them?
Because he had to talk to Luther.
Did he have to talk?
He had to talk to
Okay, fine. And Bix is like, Cassian will find us.
At which point she's like stoned out of her gourd on interrogation drugs. But
Cassian's gonna find us again.
Cassian will find us.
Cassian's gonna find us.
And Cassian's like,
And
Brazo and the one other daughter of Ferrix. And
I forget her name.
I forget the other guy's names. He's like the junkyard owner
And Pax's son.
and Pat's son.
Yeah.
And, they all.
I don't think we've ever heard in this other like more than two lines of.
Nah, she said Tim.
No, it's son. Hopefully, Tom. Yeah.
I don't think he said much.
He didn't really. No. But Cassian meets Luthen on his ship, and Cassian's like, "Hey, either kill me or take me in." And I love this because Luthen's like, "What game is this?" And he's like, "It's not a game. Like,
He's
kill
like,
me."
"Kill me."
Now, one thing I love this. Luthen picks up the blaster, and he says, "What game is this?" It was kind of funny to me because the blaster kind of looked like a Nintendo Switch. So I just want to like superimpose that, like have them holding an actual Nintendo Switch. And be like, what game is this?
What game is this?
What game? And he's like, it's nothing.
It's Splatoon 2.
But that is the last shot.
Yeah, the whole.
And as the credits rolled, that's when. So Samantha woke up when Pax's son threw the explosive into the crowd, and seeing the and she was like, "What?" Oh, and then she fell back asleep. She woke back up at the end credits, and she just said, "Well, at least the rebellion was successful." And that was.
I mean, in a boil. Yes, I guess so. So we can't. Okay, so the credits are rolling. We can't skip
We can't skip
the after credit.
the after credits.
Post credits.
Post credits scene. What's the one who just repeats what the other one says in The Sandlot?
Oh,
Timmy and Tommy.
so we see
Yeah.
many droids assembling what looks like solar paneling, like solar paneling.
Well, you can, if you look closely, you can see it's what Cassian and his prison inmates were working.
5-star little metal things like being assembled on a giant surface, and then it slowly pans back, and you're like, wow, that looks like a giant like radar dish or something. And then it pans further back, and you're like, wait, I know that shape. That's the Death Star.
And they're putting together the super laser dish of the Death Star. Now, I have to admit, like, when I first saw it, like, the first time through a few years ago, I was like, oh, man, there's the Death Star. Yep, that makes sense. It would be around this time. But I didn't put it together that they were putting what Cassian and his inmates had been working on in prison.
Literally, what
The internet was going wild over it. Like, that's what they were working on. I was like, oh, I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell because it was too, especially like if you're watching it on a small TV or something. I was like, no, but it's very small. But I'm like, the idea that, I mean, just fundamentally, like Cassian helped build the Death Star.
Yeah.
Just let that sink in for a second.
We can't spoil anything.
Like Cassian,
But it is like, and given everything we've seen thus far in the show, like, because the show, you know, to its credit, is more small scale, then you see this gigantic thing. When we first saw Star Wars A New Hope and we saw the Death Star, we just kind of took it as, oh, that's, you know, oh yeah, that's their weapon. That's just kind of always been there. No. But then when you take into account, oh my God, they've been working on something that is the size of a planet.
For real.
And like, yeah, and
yeah, they've been assembling this and planning this and engineering this for decades.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's craziness.
So it sets the stage for what is to come in Andor.
Yeah.
Season 2.
Oh, this is it. This is the end of the season. That was it. So, man,
Pretty good finale.
overall thoughts.
Yeah, very compelling. This finale, it took a while to get moving, but once they got everybody in place,
Yeah. I feel like because the last 30 minutes are just really jam-packed.
Yeah.
But you know, the nice thing is Tony Gilroy did such a good job at kind of, like, fixing up all of the plot holes.
Yes.
Like there's very few, like all of the loose ends are kind of tied up. Like everyone's story has been told to a satisfying degree. You kind of know where everyone is at. You know where everyone is at mentally. You're like, all right, what happens next?
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see season 2 play out, because by the time we get to Rogue One, only like a small handful of these characters appear in Rogue One. So what is going to happen? Dana Bass already. Do they die? Do they, you know, go hide away somewhere else? Because Star Wars, they do like to keep some characters in their back pocket and use for future kids.
Or they just cut them in half and then bring them back with mechanical legs.
So that happened multiple times. That's how I want to come back. But yeah, I mean, the trailers have been looking pretty promising for Andor season 2.
It has.
The release schedule we've talked about, 3 episodes a week for 4 weeks.
I feel like that's a better, you know, I had it in my notes. I love weekly series.
Yes.
Because it engages you. But I feel like in our modern day of streaming platforms, that production companies and film studios, they've gotten lazy. Because they know if they film a 10 episode or 12 episode or 20 episode series, they can just drop the whole thing and people will binge it.
They will.
They'll binge it over the weekend. And that way they can say, oh yeah, we've had, 10 million viewers of this series. And people, they're like, we know, we didn't, we watched the whole thing because we hit play and then we just let it run for the weekend.
Now,
Whereas like with a weekly series, these TV studios, they had to work, you think back 50, 60 years ago, they had to work, what will happen to,
people had to like look up like what was to come in TV Guide and like see the suffers there.
tune in next week at the signing conclusion. And you're like, man, this hook and, they had to work for their viewers' engagement.
Now this release schedule, it's still going to be a chore to keep up with as a reviewer, to watch all 3 episodes.
It's going to be a lot.
And pay close attention to them and still film a review, edit it, and post it all on platform.
It's in
April 22nd. Yeah. So I'm going to be having some other guests on the podcast. I'm very excited. Folks, I'm going to do my absolute best to keep up. But, bear with me. I'm curious to see how other reviewers fare with this, because I'm like, where do you find the time? because it's basically releasing a movie every week, every episode.
No, it's huge.
I'm still excited, more than excited, but
It'll be an exciting time. I'm very much looking forward to the Andor season 2.
and I'm looking forward to your wedding, folks. Congratulate him. It's it's an exciting time. Thank you. He's going to be joining the club, and thank you for being on the past 43 episodes.
I'm so happy to be. This was nice, and I look forward to not being on the next 43. So
You'll be okay. Do we want to place bets? Do we want to place bets how soon it will be before they return?
it's like,
I want to place bets how soon it will be before you return. I'll give it.
Parent, have you been gambling?
No. I'll give it like 5 or 6 episodes before you get back. That's my
5
or like back in time for the Rogue One review.
Oh,
okay. I want some back for Rogue One. That's How soon it'll be before Jess is like, okay, can you get away from me and record an episode?
Get out, go do something else. Okay. Now, in the meantime, stay classy.
Yeah, and I will see you guys for Andor season 2.
I will not.
We've been
I will not see you, but you can enjoy it.
See you next time, folks. Thanks for listening.